Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
Lost Animals, Disappearing Worlds, Stories of Extinction. This book presents 31 extinct species through the personal perspectives of those animals. It's an intimate approach that not only highlights each species, but explores the broader implications of losing a species forever. It is the latest book from the Reverend Barbara Allen. I'm delighted to say that Barbara joins me live on the line now from it's Australia, I believe we find you, Barbara. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Yes. Yeah, well, it's good afternoon from Australia.
Whereabouts are you, by the way?
I'm down in Melbourne.
There are worse places to be on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon. Do I call you Rev, by the way? How should I address you, Barbara?
No, Barbara. Please don't do that.
So tell me a little bit about why you're eminently qualified then to write Lost Animals and Disappearing Worlds, and what gave you the spark to come up with this.
Well, I've been involved in writing animal biography since 2009. So I've written a couple of books about animals because I feel that we sometimes what we don't know about means we don't care enough about a species. And I suppose I sort of looked at stories of extinction almost like eulogies. I'm used to taking eulogies, used to doing funerals, used to being what's unique about the person, what's unique about the species. And perhaps if we know more about their history, we'll not only mourn them but care for more endangered species.
Because, I mean, if you say endangered species or extinct species, for example, people will just normally go for, I don't know, just top of my head, what is it, the dodo, what is it, the Tasmanian, was it Tasmanian wolf or Tasmanian?
Yeah, the thylacine, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Those are sort of those spring to mind immediately. But obviously there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, and probably millions that we don't think about who've been lost, and that has a huge effect on the ecosystem and biodiversity.
Yes. And one of them was the dusky seaside sparrow, and it had the most restricted habitat in North America for any bird, so only a 16-kilometre radius. It was on Merritt Island, which was in East Florida, but it was due to the building of the Kennedy Space Centre and Walt Disney World, which was the reason that it went. So that's a strange thing to think about, but it's not only habitat destruction, which was the case here, but it was also DDT to get rid of mosquitoes. So all of those things conspired for something we don't know. Not all of us know that sort of name, but yeah, many species.
And that's particularly what was the name of that?
The dusky seaside sparrow.
You see, that's a lovely name. I just got a picture of that poor species, off the top of my head. But you can argue but the problem was that was maybe the 50s and the 60s, and it was the race to space and entertainment and environmental things weren't concerned, and DDT, and they didn't sort of, as historians would say, in the context of its time, we have to sort of forgive our forebears because they didn't really realise what they were doing.
You could say that, and I think nowadays it's climate change, which is the thing that we think, well, we know about it, but we're not acting, quickly enough. And so climate change altered the golden toad's survival. It needed more rain, and it didn't get that. And it had also an increase in ultraviolet light, which actually affected the embryos. So there's a whole lot of stuff when we think of climate change these days that affect many species.
So how many are you profiling in this book, and how do you start writing about these in a different kind of way?
Well, 31, and I really don't know how I chose some of them. I mean, there were ones that I felt very drawn to, like the great auk and the dodo, as you'd mentioned earlier. When we think of extinct animals, we normally say dodo. And for many years, people might have thought it was a mythical creature. We know it from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, but maybe growing up we thought it was just a made-up creature. So for me, it was ones I was drawn to, and then realising some of the less well known ones, and again thinking how many don't we know that have gone, and yeah.
And here's the thing, because I mean, all creatures great and small and all that, but can I just the ones that draw my attention to, is it it's an earwig?
Yep, the St. Helena earwig. Now
give me the St. Helena earwig 101 if you could, Barbara.
Oh, hold on, just hold me.
How do you get to write from? I mean, are you writing from the perspective of these animals, or are you giving? Or
yes,
you are.
Yes, yes, I'm doing.
So if we were doing our James Dean method acting, how on earth do you get into the character of the St. Helena earwig?
Well, I think we have to acknowledge that it's all going to be faulty and flawed, Giles. You know,
as life is in general, Barbara. As life is in general.
I mean, all of them we could name as they give the term endlings. So the last of a species is known as an endling. So Martha, the passenger pigeon, she's known as an endling. If we put a name like Benjamin, the last thylacine in captivity is an endling. I don't inhabit the world of an earwig. I don't know, how it feels. It's a rough guess, Giles.
Yeah.
Because you're balanced on being, anthropomorphic, that murky water.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the stories need to be told, and they're always going to be flawed, always going to be less than they should be, but it's better to have the story out there in some way.
I mean, how long ago? Because I mean, we're talking about I'll get it wrong, but it's the Benjamin, the Tasmanian. What is it called again? The
a thylacine or the Tasmanian tiger. It was never a tiger, but
right.
The thylacine.
Now sorry.
No. Sorry, I interrupted you.
But you talk about an endling, and it is quite something, because I've seen there is black and white. This film, isn't there, of black and white of the last one, and it's in captivity, and it's just so poignant.
So September 1936, and in Australia we actually take that date, the 7th of September, as Threatened Species Day, as a reminder. That we need to make sure that we don't add many more to the list. And I suppose for that one, it's so iconic for Australia. But I remember in one of my parishes visiting someone who was from Tasmania, so that was where they lived, and he was a son of a logger.
Right.
And only as I was going out, and this is an elderly man who would have been in his 80s, only as I was leaving his home, I turned around and I did ask him, I said, "Look, did you ever hear a thylacine? Because they have a distinct bark." And he said, yes. As I was, as he was camping with his dad, he heard them all the time. And I thought, wow, that sense of hearing something that no one can ever hear again.
Well, what was the bark? Was it high pitch? Was it a low growl? What did he explain? What it was?
It's almost like a bark. They barked.
Right. Right. And was this just a question of, I mean, because people expand into these natural habitats, don't they? I mean, people say, "Oh, we need more land." I mean, I'm sitting in southern Spain, and people are building back into areas that were untouched, and we're just destroying natural habitats. Was that what happened in this particular case?
Oh, in this particular case, it was settlers expanding with wanting more land for sheep. And targeting the thylacine as a dangerous creature, which it wasn't. It was more the wild dogs, that attacked sheep, not the thylacine. But it was very. If you said that, then you target an animal. You say it's fierce. You say it's a menace, and that gives you the legacy to.
Well, if you call it a tiger for a start, that immediately sets off. It's like
exactly.
It's like saying sharks. I mean, if you say, listen, you're in Australia, so you know more about this than me in Spain. But I'm just saying, if you say shark, people go, after the film Jaws, people were basically going out and killing sharks indiscriminately, but whether they're good, bad, and indifferent. So if you call something a tiger, then immediately you think, well, it's going to be a danger to both man and beast.
Exactly. So it's how we name a creature, and naming is really important. Does it mean that we necessarily preserve it? I think that's a really deep question. We can say Benjamin was the name of the last captive Tasmanian tiger or thylacine. Martha was the last name of the passenger pigeon. Does that mean that we care more? I don't know. So
when it comes to writing something like this, I mean, how do you not get thoroughly depressed with mankind?
I do, Giles. I cried during the writing of this book. But at the same time, it's also so others will get so caught up in it that they want to look at what's endangered, and it should be a motivator. That to me is why I wrote it, as a motivator to value what we have lost and to be sad for that, but also to say, well, what can we do to improve conditions so we lose fewer species?
I mean, when you write something like this, presumably you are looking at the species that both near and far are under threat. Because we're thinking, you're thinking of the passenger pigeon that's gone, and you must think, well, there must be other bird species in Australia or worldwide. Was there anything that crossed your radar, and so you think, okay, well, I'm writing about this particular species of bird, but is there a link to perhaps, or should we be flagging up other species that are really in danger and are going to go the same way as the passenger pigeon?
Well, for me, it was also about the interconnection of species. The Eskimo curlew, when it would fly across the prairies, would feed, its primary food source was the Rocky Mountain locust. So when the Rocky Mountain locust became extinct, then that also meant that one of the reasons the Eskimo curlew became extinct was because its food source is gone. So it's also about interconnectedness, Giles. Even when one species has gone, what other parts of the ecosystem that we don't know about have disappeared as well. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? Because these are the only things that we see. But you are a minister, so you will know that everything's interconnected. It's not, and nothing exists in the vacuum.
Exactly, and for ourselves as well. I mean, we're going in through what might be the sixth mass extinction, and sometimes that's seen as very much about humans. So perhaps if we put ourselves to the edge a little bit rather than in the centre and consider other species as subjects rather than objects, rather than creatures to be destroyed or overhunted or cleared off land or things like that, we might have a bit more respect for our animal kin.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Because we are conditioned to look as if everything beneath us on the food chain, as it were, are ours to own and to do with what we will. And thankfully, there has been some discussion about this, and a younger generation perhaps sort of changing their ideas. But there is still, that's still a fairly basic thing, and that's why we are where we are at the moment. We for millennia we've looked at animals to do our bidding.
Yeah, well, exactly. We and they've been there for us to do whatever, including sport. And the passenger pigeon was shot for sport, and those sorts of things. You think, well, hopefully we've learned from that. But yeah. And I don't know.
The other thing is, of course, is we do this at our peril, because you just mentioned the thing with the Rocky. Was it the Rocky Mountain locust?
Rocky Mountain locust.
Right,
yep.
And then that affects the Eskimo curlew.
Yep.
And that's interconnected. We have no idea, and we're part of this ecosystem as well. And one of the things that I notice is these collapses tend to happen in evolutional terms very, very quickly indeed. I mean, the blink of an eye, because we're talking about millennia here, evolution, etc. Yes. So we have to be very careful, because we have no idea that we might knock out a species that has a knock-on effect, and then suddenly, we like to think we're pretty unshakable, but it only takes something coming out of however you believe it came out of China, and we're all suddenly sort of paralyzed with fear and can't get out of our houses for a long period of time. So it's we're not indestructible either.
And they've done a count to say that they think there's about 42,000 species at risk. I mean, that's a huge number. And you're there thinking, well, a 2023 report said that we've lost 48% of all species. Wow. So, it's mind-blowing, Giles, and that's where you think, well, And even if you look at, the dusky seaside sparrow that we mentioned before, with its tiny habitat, when they thought, well, we won't do DDT or pesticides, instead we'll flood the area, and which flooded their breeding grounds. You also then wonder, well, what else went in that ecosystem? What else was interconnected that's no longer there? So, I mean, I suppose maybe it's nice that we don't know, because we'd be overwhelmed by it. But we have to tread more gently on this earth. It's the only one we've got. Is that
the sort of the message of your book, to tread more gently and try and save what we got?
Well, yes, and I mean, a lot of money's been put into things such. I mean, it's a topic on itself about de-extinction, but I also think we need to be, putting more into protecting what we have, looking carefully at, is this the right, as you said, in an urban area, how do we build? How are we careful to make sure that we're not damaging a species that's already at risk? To do those sorts of studies before building. How much land do we need? What can we set aside? Those sorts of things, and also as well. It's the
side effect, because I mean, if we talk about building urbanizations and or whatever, or building encroaching to that, but at the same time, you're in Melbourne. You've had extreme weather conditions. You've had huge fires, and that used to be once every 10 years, and now it seems to be once every 5 years. It's not actually 3 years, and then followed by flash floods, and that's going to have a huge impact on because people say, I lost my garden, my car's gone, whatever. But again, we don't think of the ecosystems that don't have a chance in this situation.
Exactly. And I mean, I can't look at those, those pictures, when they come on the news, because I think of the animals. I think, well, what have we lost? What have we lost in that area? Yeah.
The book is called Lost Animals, Disappearing World Stories of Extinction. It's by Barbara Allen, who we're talking to today. You can order it, by the way, listeners, and I urge you to by going onto the TRE virtual bookstore and clicking on the rather touching front cover. If you go and find it, you'll see what I mean. The book is called Lost Animals, Disappearing World Stories of Extinction. It's by Barbara Allen. Barbara, it's been a pleasure to speak this morning from me, this afternoon to you.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you.